Hello, and welcome back to Sharing a Chapter a Day. This is Dara, and today I will be reading Chapter 4 of Engagement in Peril by Dara Odoe. Chapter 4 is titled Thailand, Breach and Reached. We were a family once again. Although not all of us were here, my father had passed and several of my mother's other siblings were missing as well, because they went in different directions. But now I have a mother and a sister. As a family, we continue to move on. We kept on running, treading our ways through whatever stood before us, constantly in the dark, hidden behind the shrouds of trees and under phantom skies. We would hide during daylight, only stopping to rest for a little while. We ate what we found on the way and drank whatever drop of water there were. We collected rainwater and drank from muddy pools made from footsteps and from leaves that held in the water and dew. We didn't know where we were running to, but we had to run anywhere but here. Anywhere but here and away from all these death and terrors. Away from those who have made our homeland a living hell. After several horrendous weeks of hiding and slowly running, we eventually made and found our way into our neighboring country of Thailand. Mother, sister, and I, and the rest of the accompanying family had escaped our home country and found another to call home for the time being. While on our way into Thailand, my mother's mother, my grandmother, was stricken with death. She was quite old at that time and knew it was her time to go. She told her children to love and look after each other and to continue seeking freedom, to find something better for themselves and her grandchildren. Her deceased body was buried beneath the ground in the jungle of Thailand, where they returned her empty vessel back to Mother Nature. They didn't bother burning my grandmother's body then. Traditionally, they would often do, cremating the deceased. I'm sure it was to avoid attracting attention from the burning fire and smoke. After a day or so of mourning for their mother and the rest, mother and her siblings, and the rest of us continued onward further into the region of Thailand and took refuge in the refugee camp called Khao Dang. It was here that we all had a place to stay for a while. We had a place to shelter our head from the weary skies and constant tropical rain. We eventually made our way toward a small town on the outskirts of the city. Mother leaving me alone under my sister's care, she went into town on her own to reconnaissance the area. While there, Mother met a Thai man, from which she formed relations, and after a while the man took us in to live with him and his family in the province of Chang Wat of Chanburi, located on the west of the Gulf of Thailand. It was just my mother, sister, and I then, who went with him. My mom's sister and brother and the other decided to stay in the camp of Khao Dang and try to make a life there. Little did we know that they would soon be sponsored by the European nations and taken to Belgium, where in turn we stayed behind with Mom and her new husband in Chanburi, Thailand. Recently, my aunt and uncle told me that they tried to look for my mother, sister, and me then, and tried to sponsor us too to go with them to Europe, but stated that Mom decided to stay behind with her new husband, feeling that it would be good for me and my sister to stay behind. We never got to say our proper goodbyes to our aunt, uncle, and relatives, and it was the last time I saw my aunt and uncle and the rest of my kin until recently, in November of 2007 when I visited them in England and Belgium. It was fate that we were separated from each other during that time. I felt that it was meant to be for us to part then. There was something different planned for my mother, sister, and I. I had thought and would have imagined that was God's plan, I guess. The man that we were staying with was a widower who had several daughters of his own. As time progressed, our newfound freedom would be tested. While in hiding and during the daylight, we would remain hidden. We only came out at night and early dawn to catch and gather food from the nearby beaches and woods. Sister and I would go to the beach before sunrise to catch sand crabs and other sea creatures for food and nourishment. We would catch the crabs that hid themselves in the white sands and pick coconuts and dates for our daily meals, as we help around the stilt home and such with house chores and duties. After about a year residing with this man and his daughter, my mother conceived and bore my younger brother. He was named Chanburi, after the city that he was conceived and born in. We didn't really get along with the other girls, who were our so-called stepsister. They would pick on my little brother and me, and it usually ended up with my older sister beating the shit out of them. In turn, brought our immediate family more turmoil and problems. Although we were living with someone else and we were free to do most things on our own, we were still in hiding. We hardly ever went out during the daylight and kept hidden and seemed to be cautiously sleeping, always with one eye open and with our minds wide awake as though we were being sought by some unpreventable, unknown forces. It was there in the town of Chanburi, during one of those few days that Mom took us outside during daylight to the street market, where vendors sell various food, animals, and trinkets. It was then that I first saw a statue of Jesus. He was made and carved out from wood, made to be life-size, as big as a human adult, where he was hammered onto a massive wooden cross, his arms stretched out wide and nailed down, and his feet overlapped and nailed down. Mournful and bleeding, his face seemed to show signs of sorrow, which scared the shit out of me, of course, because I didn't know any better and thought it was a real person. The lifelike statue was as large as a grown adult. I, not knowing about the Catholic or Christian faith and religion then, thought it was actually a real person, being punished for something. I had thought someone was being punished for some misdeed he had previously committed. I was deeply frightened, consumed with fear. I tearfully cried and swiftly ran away to seek the warm bosoms of my mother's comfort. Mother assured me there was a statue, that it had something to do with some sort of religion different than that of our Buddhist faith and beliefs. So with my mother's comfort and reassurance, I dried away my salty tearful eyes, and I felt more at ease and wasn't afraid of that statue, as previously occurred. Now, in the marketplace of this small town, people would sell just about anything and everything, from vegetable, fish, to exotic wild animals. I remember an incident that occurred to me when I was very young and naive, and my suspicion got the best of me then. On one of my trips to the street market with Mother, I saw several house cat-sized monkeys in a cage. They were somewhat smaller than me at the time, and I wanted to see them up close. But my curiosity got the best of me, so I stuck my ignorant head in one of the cages and was scratched, maimed, and knocked the fuck out by the frightened, mischievous apes. I awoke hours later back at our still home, with Mother by my side, who was tending to my wounds and injury with homemade remedies of plants and herbs. The primates got really messed me up then. They left their claws and bite marks on and about my once porcelain face. It's funny now, to think of what kids do when they are curious and thoughtless, and the lesson learned from being ignorant. And I have those scars to this day to remind me of where I've been, and whom I've encountered, and what trouble I've gotten myself into when I was young, ignorant, naive, and careless, and just plain stupid. There were some nice and adventurous things there that we did there while we were hiding in Chanburi. Besides, group of us would take trips to the jungle to hunt and fish and gather food along the streams and river. During our trips, we were always careful, walking through the town, communes, and villages in Thailand, never trying to disturb anyone. We were careful not to step on landmines and getting noticed by authorities. Although we looked similar to Thai people in skin complexion and statutes, our language were different, so we were careful not to talk in our native tongues around the Thai natives and people we didn't know. We made our ways through the treacherous forest, seeking the perfect spot to fish and enjoy the moment. Once we arrived to our predetermined site, we bathed in the sunlight and lived life for a moment. I would try to swim against the running water current, always near a big boulder for support, and we saw many beautiful exotic animals and plants there. The serene jungle and the sounds were sight for sore and frightful eyes, and at moments the serenity gave us a sense of freedom, where we basked in fresh air and we were careless and carefree for a short moment. These type of trips are the only time we felt that we were totally free to do whatever we desired, and these were the sort of things that kept us going, to keep living and to keep seeking that elusive freedom that we all seek for ourselves, for our children, and for our loved ones. For a small period at a time, our freedom was untouched and not hidden. We were free to bask in the sunlight and allowed to breathe in the fresh air, and there wasn't anyone there to stop us or prevent us from doing so. Those were the few precious moments that my family and I had and could enjoy then. Those were our keepsake for rainy days. And as a young child who knew very little of the outside world and how vast this planet Earth was, uneducated and unnoticed and untouched by the influence of the outside world, those were the very best thing that I ever knew, enjoyed, and took comfort in. As long as my mother was by my side, I was happiest. This is the end of chapter 4, Thailand Breach and Reach. Thank you for listening. Until next time, this is Do Ra Mi, and I'll see you later. Thank you. Be on the lookout for chapter 5, titled Return to Captivities and Everyday Life. Until next time, this is Do Ra Mi, and I'll see you later. Thank you.